this past weekend, Sam, you know, we've seen Dwayne Haskins now gone too soon. You see Jeff Gladney. And so as a former Vikings defensive back, now Arizona Cardinal, we don't have the whole story, so we can't even go there. But for me, it hit a little close because my wife this weekend as well, Saturday or Sunday, my days are running together, was in a real bad accident, totaled her car. A lady tried to come across, had a stop sign, didn't stop. My wife had the right of way on a street that there's no stop signs, no lights, probably doing 45, 50 miles an hour. Lady tries to beat her across. And then as my wife starts to remember the story, she doesn't think the lady saw her. She said she wasn't going that fast. The lady did not look like she was trying to get out of the way. And it was one of those things when you're going 50 and somebody is literally just in your way, the only thing you can do is turn, but not try to kill yourself. And so the good thing was my wife didn't just completely ram into her. She turned a little bit left. Lady still hit her. Like, lady kept driving through. Like, lady never saw her, never stopped, never hit her brakes. So whether she was on her phone, I don't know what the hell was going on with this lady, but she just never saw her, had a kid in the car. I think her husband in the car. So who knows if they were talking, they thought like we're right. I mean, they were right across the street from their apartment building when they hit her. And my 7-year-old daughter was in the car. And so just getting that call from a stranger, you know, and then hearing my wife's, you know, I can hear the phone because she was on the phone, and the phone like was on like the little tripod thing, and she's just talking Bluetooth, and I could hear the phone drop. And she's just like, the kids are screaming. She's saying she can't find her phone. And then she just like, it went dead. And so I like panicked. I'm trying to find her. And so to go to sleep on that and then wake up and see Jeff Gladney pass away from a car accident, well, it was tough for me because I know that's where my situation could have been, my wife and my daughter. You just never know in car accidents. You just never know, like nothing's guaranteed. And so Sam, as I, you know, kind of preface this, the way I want to take this route is I'm kind of annoyed. I'm annoyed today a little bit, Sam. I'm annoyed because I just dealt with that with my wife. So I know what his family's going through. I know what his friends are going through. And to read some of these publications, and I know you got to get your 1,000 words in. I know you got to get whatever your editor is telling you, your story to get produced and printed or whatever, or published. You got to hit a certain number of words, letters, characters. But I'm really pissed off and annoyed that somebody's article, and I'm not going to call anybody out. I'm not going to say what publication it was because it wasn't just one, but it was one that kind of jumped out there. And there's supposed to be a Viking supporter. There's supposed to be a Vikings, you know, outlet for people. And the words used as far as like struggling to make a team or injured, and so never got on the field last season or whatever, you know, what, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't really matter what he did on the field. Like, he's not a commodity to be traded and be talked about as if it's nothing. This is a person that lost their life. This is a son that's no longer. This is a father that now has left his daughter without a dad. This is a boyfriend or, you know, whatever, fiance that's left his girlfriend or wife. I mean, there's so much. There's a brother, sister, whatever. There's so much to this. There's a friend. You see Jalen Reagor tweet to leave his best friend. You know, it annoys me at the way people senselessly just write their little articles as if like, oh, F it. Like, yeah, he struggled. I want to make sure I talk about this. Doesn't matter. Like, who cares if he didn't play an entire down and got a check after check after check for 7 years and he passed away? We shouldn't talk about what he was or what he did on the field. He was a great person, a great father, a great man. Yes. Did he go to court? Yes, he was found out guilty. People want to argue about that. It doesn't matter. Like, he went through that. And so I wish, I mean, we saw Dwayne Haskins and Adam Schefter. We saw what that looked like. I just wish people would think before they decide to write an article just to get some clicks. I get it. You got to get paid. You got to get your people to click on your story and read about it. You want to be first to the street with this. But Sam, I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Sam, as far as people just jumping out and trying to have the first story and thinking they're TMZ and they don't have all the info, or they don't have any info, so they fill it, which nobody has any info right now, and they're just filling these stories with BS that has nothing to do with Jeff Gladney's life.
Yeah, you know, we shouldn't define people based on a year of professional struggles. I mean, that should not be what a person, you know, boils down to. You know, obviously Jeff Gladney's issues were legal in nature, but that doesn't mean that that's not the lead. Like, so a life was lost. And unfortunately, you know, like whether mistakes were made or not on Jeff's part, he doesn't get the opportunity to make amends for those mistakes. He doesn't get an opportunity to come back in his career and try to make something of it. So it's all very sad. And you mentioned it with Schefter and Haskins. That's how Schefter got in hot water, is he tried to boil down Dwayne Haskins by tweeting Dwayne Haskins, struggling, you know, Commanders and now Steelers quarterback, passes away. It's in bad taste. It diminishes who they were. And we don't know a lot of these guys off the field that well. We don't know what they're about or the way they interact with their family. That's all more important, arguably. So I understand why you'd be disappointed. And you know, for Vikings fans or you know, journalists, Gladney was a difficult or a challenging person to cover there for a couple of years, but this supersedes that. Right? Like this is a totally different ball game than what happened in those 2 years he was on the Vikings.
Yeah, and that's what's sad. Like I've said this numerous times. Like I'm tired of people treating players as if that's it. Like when you see somebody, you know, who passes away, Joe Blow, American, awesome person, you don't ever see people talk about them that way. Like, oh, you know, he struggled at Wendy's for a couple years and then he moved on to Burger King, and, you know, he never really figured out the fry machine at McDonald's. You know, he struggled to just get a job at Best Buy. Then he went to Target. Then he went to Sears. And then he went to, you know, you don't see people do that with human beings. When somebody dies, he was a father, he was a husband, she was a mother, she was a wife. You never, ever see that. Like you never see people do that. And that's why it frustrates me that's the way. Now, granted, you're not going to get clicks by talking about the life and death of somebody that the media cannot, you know, break down and talk about. But I go back to the ESPN commercial. One of my favorite ESPN commercials, I think it was Peyton Manning, who was like at the grocery store cheering on the guy making the deli meat. And then he was at the bus stop cheering on the bus driver. And I think it was all NFL guys. I think it was like Eli Payton, a couple other guys. I can't remember all who was involved, but I think back to that, you know, like I think somebody blew the whistle with somebody in their office because they took too long to type out the email. You know, like I don't think people understand the pressure that these players are under, where you can't just like Justin Jefferson, he can't just go shopping at Shields or the Mall of America. Now he can, but he's probably going to get stopped once people realize who he is. Like I said, I saw Mackenzie Alexander at the mall, I think last year before. Like, I can't remember, my years are running together now with COVID, but I remember just having a conversation with him at the Nike store. And the only reason people started walking is they saw two, you know, guys that look like they're in shape. And of course, African-American guys, me being 6'3", you know, of course it's like, well, who is this guy? And then they see Mackenzie Alexander. So people kind of start like, oh, that guy looks familiar though. I couldn't imagine, you know, living that life under a microscope, especially with social media right now. I think that's the other part of this. Like you had a lot of issues in the past. And that's why even the James Worthy, you know, bringing up current players' tattoos and three-pointers, you know, and then people are now dragging him through the mud because they're like, dude, you got arrested for prostitution before a game. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this dude, when he got tattoos, like LaMelo Ball, for instance, when he got tattoos, he's in the AT&T commercial, great kid, never been in trouble, you know, not in the media for doing anything, doesn't have like a bunch of, you know, crap in his life, has a great dad and mom, you know, supporting him, has brothers, you know, one brother in the NBA and doing great, one brother trying to make it. Nothing wrong, but you want to talk about guys with tattoos and shooting three-pointers. And LaMelo fits that bill. Like, he shoots, he's up threes, he makes them. But the fact that James Worthy is one of those guys, you know, one of those like, oh, man, back in my day. No, man, you can't say that. Like, stop trying to minimize what players and young guys do and turn it into your headline. Like, I think that's my overall, like, our overall arching message for today. Stop trying to turn everything into a negative headline so that people can get clicks. And again, the people that are pushing James Worthy's message out there, hey, they're going to get the clicks. People are going to watch the video. But, hey, when you throw stones and you live in a glass house, you're going to get cut. And that's what James Worthy's dealing with right now. Sorry if I said James Harden earlier. I meant James Worthy. But that's which is going to happen. You can't throw rocks if you live in a glass house. You're going to end up cut badly. James Worthy's dealing with it now. Adam Schefter, you dealt with it. Like, don't be the next casualty. Like, treat these guys like they are human beings, men. Learn them, appreciate them. You can get just as much love from a positive than you can from a negative. And if that's not the case in this world, we're lost. We are truly lost if everything has to be negative and able to get clicks.